composite to more records. Traders looking ahead to several earnings reports this week, including updates from Delta Airlines on Thursday, and J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo on Friday. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell addresses Congress on Tuesday and Wednesday. Treasury yields were stable in the bond market. Specialty glassware maker Corning surged after raising its sales forecast. The Dow was down 31 points, closing at 39,344. The Nasdaq gained 51 to 18,403. The S&P 500 was up 5 to 55.72. New York oil fell 83 cents to $82.33 per barrel. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Muggy this evening with a low temperature dipping to just 75. Tomorrow, more of what we've had, hot and humid. 96 the high, a 30% chance we get afternoon showers. For the rest of the week, high temperatures in the mid-90s, rain chances every day about 30 to 40%, and low temperatures getting down to the mid-70s each night. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, I like when you press that one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
Well, our introductory voice, Dave Cohen, there is half right. Phil Kornblut is still off, but Chris Bergen is back with us. Phil Kornblut taking a little time in Margaritaville. I'm Matt Smith. You heard me last week, and you hear me from time to time on Sports Talk as I'm part of the team. But Chris Bergen is back with us tonight, and Chris is crispy, nicely tanned as he returns back from his time in the Caribbean. Now, we won't dig into everything that he did. I'll just tell you that part of what was going on was obviously he was hiding some of his cryptocurrency that he had brokered with Tom Brady at one point, and then we moved it through Sports Talk, and then he had to get it down to Turks and Caicos. But Chris is back with us, and we're ready to talk about sports, even though the sports world is a little bit slow. The All-Star game is coming up quickly, so we can talk about the first half of the baseball season, and recruiting news has really heated up. I had just told you this past Friday that Clemson, I don't know if they were struggling in recruiting at all. They were, still had locked in a lot of the commitments that they wanted, but they had not been landing their targets recently. As a matter of fact, they were on a string where 10 straight Clemson targets had committed elsewhere. And no sooner did I say that than the news changed over the weekend, and Clemson landed a recruit, their first one of the 2026 class, quarterback Tate Reynolds out of Queen Creek High School in Arizona. He's a dual sport player. He expects to eventually be a baseball player and a football player at Clemson. More on that later because Phil Kornblut actually spoke with Tate Reynolds. We'll get to that. South Carolina, of course, over the weekend landed one recruit and got a commitment, but lost another. We actually hinted about this. We knew there were rumblings about Shamari Earls, who was highly touted, actually decommitting from South Carolina and committing to Georgia. That also happened over the weekend. So that's kind of the big news. For me, the big news is Chris Bergen is back, and also Josh Cohen. JP, Jefferson Pilot Sports, did a great job in Josh's stead. But Josh, we're also glad to have you back with us, man. And like Chris, you had to get on down to the Caribbean and lay out and get some sunshine and see the clear water. I'm definitely envious. I don't take vacations. I never seem to get one. but you guys actually did the same thing and ended up on a cruise. Separate ships.
Yep.
Different trips, completely different trips. But what are the odds that you guys, without booking this together, just said, oh, we're going on cruises, and you happen to just be going to two different places?
Yeah, same day we left, same day we came back, same port. I mean, everything. It's hilarious. And when we first heard about it, me and him both laughed about it. Are we on the same boat? I mean, because it all lined up. And but yeah, we had a great time. Glad to be back in the chair, though, for sure.
All right,
Get your
Chris.
highlights. Yeah, Josh,
Yes.
get your highlights. What things did you enjoy the most about your cruise? Because you're right, it was phenomenal. And the amount of people, to give you an idea, it was like trying to go through Atlanta Hartsfield Airport and run around and find Josh. I didn't even bother to try. Either way, we both texted one another before we left, wishing good cruise. But outside of that, yeah, I didn't get a chance to run into Josh. I know he was somewhere in Port Canaveral as I was, and that's about as close as we could get.
Yeah, we went to 4 different ports. I believe it was like San Juan, Amber Cove, St. Thomas, and St. Martin. We went on some Jeep cruise around this island, St. Martin. It was a great time.
Nice.
And, it was very fun, for sure.
And Smitty, he hit one of the ports that I hit as well. We went to Amber Cove in the Dominican. We did a waterfalls and zip lining combo. And the hike itself, just to get to the top of the, and for lack of a better term, the top of the volcano to be able to water slide down, was about a change of elevation of about 700 meters. I have no idea what meters are. I know it's shorter than a yard, longer than a yard. I can't remember. Didn't ever learn meters. Don't want to learn meters. Don't need to know meters. Everything I know is measured in yards and feet. That's all that matters.
Yes, it's slightly. Well, you do know meters because you've seen the 100 meters in the Olympics. Slightly longer than a yard. Bob Hayes did the 100 meters in about 10.4. So if that tells you anything. And you did 700 meters.
700 meters uphill, both ways it appeared, which shocked the heck out of me. But the one fascinating thing, and evidently it's legal in the Dominican Republic, we went past a cockfighting ring. Yeah, that was unique. It was a little miniature arena, for lack of a better term, outdoors that had seating all around this big dirt field, basically, to put it into perspective. And our guide casually just pointed out, yeah, over there on the right, that's a cockfighting area. I was like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
One thing on our cruise, there was on St. Martin, it's this island that's like half French territory. I'm not sure where the other, it's very interesting. There's a famous beach there called Maho Beach. These airplanes come straight above you. It's like one of the most dangerous airports and beaches in the world. It was very fun. And I will say we went on a Jeep tour all around the island, 15 Jeeps, and there's no traffic law. Well, there's traffic laws, no stoplights on the whole island. I almost died from a toxic waste truck. Almost hit me about a couple feet. And I mean, it let's just say
a toxic waste truck, that could be a fender bender and you die. You could just be exposed to some sort of uranium and you die.
It said toxic waste on the truck, but I didn't die because of that. I didn't die at all, obviously. I didn't die almost because of the spill. That. Yeah, right. But it almost hit me head on because, I mean, there's literally, they don't care. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, they don't move out of the way.
You guys really took some chances, but I guess that's great. You had an adventure. Mm-hmm. That's terrific. Chris, I'm an animal lover myself. So next time I would just tell you, when you book with Carnival Cruises, don't get the Michael Vick package. That's the one they take you by the cockfighting ring. Don't get that one. You check a different box.
No, trust me, that was a surprise, to say the least, and it was a really, really neat experience. We were riding around in this miniature, for lack of a better, the best way to describe it to you was a cut-down school bus, and it was yellow and black. It actually looked like a tiger. It looked like the Bengals logo had been painted on it, and drove us all around the roads. I've complained enough. I will never say another bad thing about Interstate 95 here in South Carolina and the road conditions in our state after having to suffer what the folks in the Dominican have to deal with riding around, because you want to talk about bumpy. My wife was trying to write something to the guy who took photos of her, so we had to fill out a little bit of paperwork. She couldn't even write my phone number down for him to contact us because we were bouncing all over the place. But one thing interesting about, and then we'll move on because I know our listeners don't want to hear us brag about vacation, especially if you had to work last week like Smitty did. But one thing I found fascinating was in Grand Turk, they have a police department, and obviously it's the biggest city in Turks and Caicos. It's the biggest island there. And obviously you've got a police department, but their crime rate is so low, it reminded me of Mayberry, because their police officers there don't actually carry weapons. They told us now when you go back to the port, you will see guys with submachine guns, and that's just for looks, to make you feel safe, because we have no crime on this island. We may have the occasional burglary and may have the occasional shoplifter and that type of thing, breaking and entering, but other than that, the only thing they enforce, and they're serious about this in Grand Turk, if you ever go down there, Smitty, do not take your fishing rod, because they are so strict about fishing off the coast, because that's obviously part of their tourism. And if you are caught fishing anywhere, it appears, in Grand Turk, you spend 15 years in prison.
Oh,
now they have no crime but fish crime, and fish crime is treated extremely harshly, evidently.
That is harsh. All right, if Chris and Josh are done rubbing it in yet about their weeks. You're done? Okay. All right.
Now, if Josh would like to brag further, I'm fascinated.
I could go for a couple more minutes, but we won't. It's all right. We won't.
Okay. Okay. We'll get at the show. For those of you that are watching on our streaming apps and YouTube, sorry I'm so close. I realized I did this last week, too. I kind of look like the Wizard of Oz. It's all head for me, all face. Yeah, yes, Josh is doing it now, too. I've got to get my camera more like Josh's and Chris's. Maybe we'll work on that tonight. But, Chris, you were away, so you kind of got the reset. And as we head into the show tonight, I know you've booked a guest as well, so maybe set up what you missed about sports last week, or what you're thinking about now with this reset. Was this the line, in other words, for you and Josh both, was this the line now you're starting to kind of think about football? We didn't before. We didn't really before. It was so far away, but now that the vacation is behind you, it's almost as if, all right, tuck your shirt in and start looking ahead to football season and thinking about the schedule and what games you'll cover.
Absolutely, because I think that's part of sort of July 4th. I was thinking in my head when we hit Independence Day about the great holidays for sports around the country. And we'll get to our poll question a little bit later on, because I'm going to have some fun at Phil's expense with that. But if we did a poll question and asked our listeners, what is your favorite holiday for sports? We would have to, don't you think, Smitty, take Labor Day out of the mix? Because if we put Labor Day in there, in our state in particular, with the start of college football, Darlington and the Southern 500, I think it'd be the runaway winner. So if you take that out of the mix and just assume that Labor Day is the best holiday for sports in the country, and certainly in the Southeast with the start of college football, the NFL only about 2 weeks later, you start really, once you get past July 4th, looking forward to the start of the football season. So what would be your second favorite holiday for sports? If you take Labor Day and assume it's the most important and it's the best, what would be second best?
I think you mean holiday specifically, not just date on the calendar?
The day. Yeah, correct.
The day.
Yeah, I mean, New Year's Day, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, whatever the case may be.
I will tell you, I'm going to have to think about this for this reason. Okay, Thanksgiving is overrated because the Lions are always playing.
Sure.
Okay, or for years it was. For years, now the Lions are good. The Lions are, again, expected to finish atop their division, and Phil won't want to talk about that either. The Packers are picked to finish second or third by most analysts. But Thanksgiving, I thought always thought was overrated.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas Day, in my opinion, is overrated as well. You've got the NBA, but as you're watching it, then you're reminded every time you watch an NBA regular season game, it's not the NBA playoffs. That's right. Okay, so I'll recall that. New Year's Day, you talk about a runaway winner. I am such, and you are too, a college football fanatic. New Year's Day, and you would open it up. You're a little bit groggy. Some of us are, Chris. Not you. You're only on Diet Dr. Pepper. Some of us go hair of the dog. Like Jimmy Buffett. I knew I could use a Bloody Mary, so I stumbled next door to the bar. That's a New Year's Day. You watch the Rose Bowl parade, and then you get into college football. Chris, I'm telling you, New Year's Day is a dud now for me in terms of college football. It doesn't mean anything, and all you're doing is you're just discussing who's injured for the next week with the college football playoff. So I'm getting to is I'm really having to think now and dig deep about if you're going to be specifically about a holiday, that we all celebrate. Maybe I could find, if you count Father's Day. Fourth round of the U.S. Open on Father's Day is pretty good. And you also have Major League Baseball on that day. But I don't know what else is going on Mother's Day. Sometimes it's Darlington. And I know some people will pick that. You get the first Darlington race of the season. But it used to be, for me, clearly New Year's Day. And now I'm so fed up with the watered-down bowl games that to me, I don't even want to talk about New Year's Day anymore.
My father and I used to set up about 5 TVs in the house because there were so many bowl games on New Year's Day we didn't want to miss one. So we'd have the little TV, the small black and white. Yeah, folks, they actually used to make black and white televisions. That would be the worst of the games. And that got lobbied to relegated to that TV, and we go through the day. But you're right, it has been diminished to the standpoint. And if you're not an NBA fan, Christmas Day loses a little bit of its luster because that's pretty much an NBA dominated holiday. I still think Thanksgiving probably is your second favorite because you got the NFL and you've gotten some college football games that have migrated over there, and it looks like it. And I wanted to get some reaction. I saw 2 big sports stories while I was on the cruise. One of them I just happened to catch on the ESPN crawl, and that was Jason Tatum signing a contract extension with the Boston Celtics, which appeared to be the no-brainer of the year and the offseason in the NBA. The second thing was news I'm sure you guys spent a great deal of time with, and that's the ACC trying to twist Clemson's arms a little bit and have them move the Carolina-Clemson game to Black Friday, which I cannot think of a worse idea from the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I was so happy to see that Clemson told the ACC what they could do with that and shoved it right back in their face. And the ACC had the audacity to write back to Graham Neff and tell him, we're kind of disappointed in you guys not handling things that we need to get handled. And I'm thinking they're in a lawsuit against your league, trying to get out of your league. They're not going to make it any easier for you. And as you and I were chatting earlier, Smitty, that's a sacred day in terms of sports, high school sports here in South Carolina. That Friday is upper state, lower state finals. You want to kill high school playoffs in South Carolina? Move the Carolina-Clemson game to Black Friday. It'd be awful.
I'm in 100% agreement with you there. And additionally, by the way, you just mentioned Black Friday. Now, if you could extend Thanksgiving to your question earlier to include rivalry weekend in college football, Friday and Saturday as well, well, then now you got me.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now you've got me. But you're right. To me, what the ACC office did and the way that they responded to Clemson, and if you're not sure all the details here about what we're talking about, you can go 2 places. You can go back through our Twitter at SportsTalkSC, and also John Blau, which is John Blau, BLAU _ and he's done a great job reporting. He doesn't tweet nearly as much as we do, so it might be easier to find there, and we've retweeted him several times as well. But to your point, Chris, to me, this makes it seem as if it's over. The way that the ACC acted, this relationship has become so acrimonious and important to go public, by the way. In other words, if Clemson were trying anything behind closed doors to repair this relationship, this is the kind of email they never would have let go public, right? If they thought there was a chance that they could reconcile. So I think it's over. And we didn't get the opportunity to ask you last week because for me, this really has my juices flowing. It's hard for us. I'm closing my eyes as I speak because I can't even believe what I'm about to say, but it's so tough for us to imagine a world where the ACC is not whole. And by that, I mean Clemson, North Carolina, the Tobacco Road schools, Duke, et cetera, Wake Forest, NC State, Virginia. If that's not whole, because I think we all could have foreseen a world where, say, Syracuse or Boston College kind of got picked back off. Right, either to the Big Ten or something. The Big East came back and got them because there was a new world order in college football. I think we could have foreseen that. But, Chris, if Clemson and Florida State get their wish and they're out of the ACC, forget for a moment, just put aside what that means for those 2 football pillars of the ACC in Florida State and Clemson. Put that aside. North Carolina can't stay there, right? North Carolina can't stay in a conference where, what are they going to do? Put the ACC basketball tournament in Dallas? SMU's going to host it in 3 years? Is it going to be at the Staples Center in Cal Berkeley and Stanford's backyard one day? I mean, of course, they're in Northern California, but you get my drift.
Wherever the Golden State Warriors play, yeah.
Where the Golden State Warriors play. North Carolina cannot deal with that. In this world, in this environment, they wouldn't be able to get enough money in the door to sustain what they do in basketball. And I use them as an example because I know there's Duke and I know there's Virginia, but North Carolina to me is one of those programs that the money, they just print it, right? And part of the reason they're able to do that is because of their popularity across the spectrum in terms of sports. They're a national brand in basketball, and they're big enough in their other sports that they command respect from the ACC, and they are. If you're negotiating with ESPN and other television networks and you're the ACC, what do you come to the table with? You come to the table with, here's Florida State football, here's Clemson football, here's North Carolina basketball, here's Duke basketball, here's who they play next year, here's when they play each other. If I take Florida State and Clemson away, North Carolina does not have enough money now. They're not getting enough money in that negotiation from ESPN.
Right.
So I'm telling you, what I'm asking you and telling you is, I'm telling you first and I'll ask you, I think they're the domino. I think if Clemson and Florida State leave, I think everybody's eyes turn toward Chapel Hill. What's next?
I think you're 100%
moves North
correct.
Carolina.
Because that's your cash cow, because Duke's not bringing that same cachet, even though their basketball program is certainly on par, if not better than UNC. But they don't have across the board, even though Pollard's done a nice job getting to their baseball program, but it's not the same. North Carolina strikes you as a Stanford-type program where they're good at a lot of different things. And if Clemson and Florida State bail, which I agree with you, I think is almost a foregone conclusion, the only question is where are they going? Then, yeah, North Carolina's got to get out of there too. But my point has been for a couple of months now, watching this unfold, is what's Clemson's rush, what is Florida State's rush, because I think we're going to get there, and I believe we get there rapidly, where none of this is going to matter. Because I don't think we're going to have a situation where we have an SEC with 16 teams, where we're going to have a Big 12 with 14 teams, where we have a Big 10 with 18 teams, and a ACC and whatever. I think we're just going to have one conglomerate of Power 5 programs that play under one umbrella, and then they're regionalized in some sort of made-up name: Southeast Region 1, Southeast Region 2, Midwest Region, Upper Midwest, and West Coast. And I think that'll be the situation we're in.
Let me jump in quickly, and I'll let you continue your thought. Chris, you're almost right, but it won't be Midwest. It will be Chevron Oil division.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
It's going to be the Southeast portion of college football presented by Walmart Inc., right? Isn't that where it's going?
And Regions Bank. And where's Buc-ee's? Buc-ee's is going to be in there. They're going to spend money in Texas, so they'll be in there somewhere. The Buc-ee's Conference.
Right. So is it Texas A&M football presented by Buc-ee's? Is that where we're at?
We laugh, but I don't think we're that far down the road from that happening. I mean, they're already approving advertising on the field. I've told Phil I think that's a natural, easy mix for Seawells to get on the field at Williams-Brice Stadium and to get the Esso Club up at Clemson. I mean, who wouldn't want to score in the Esso end zone?
You bring up a great point, by the way, and I know we've got a guest, and I'll let you get to setting up the show in just a moment. But I think you bring up a brilliant point. Are Clemson and Florida State almost looking 2 moves ahead? Because they get out of the ACC. What is the proposal? Are they on the phone with, say, North Carolina? Because if North Carolina then they would look northward toward the Big Ten, or they would look westward toward the SEC about, what are we going to do? Who's going to come after us? But what if Florida State and Clemson just pick up the phone and say, hey, North Carolina, Duke, Virginia, maybe a couple of other key players, we'll just have a rebirth of the ACC. It just won't utilize that name, and we'll let them come get us, and we'll let ESPN come talk to us, because frankly, the point you're making, if North Carolina and Duke, in other words, kind of like the Masters did at some point, they said, well, we'll just be independent. We'll just do this on our own. It's similar to, say, the USGA hosting the U.S. Open and the PGA Tour having all the weekly events at the same time. What if North Carolina and Duke, they were no longer beholden to the ACC, and they said, well, we're going to let North Carolina Duke basketball games go to the highest bidder. We'll be taking your bid. We'll be taking your bids at 888-898-2525. We're no longer a part of that conference. Anybody that wants to air that, or Clemson, Florida State, you want to air the Clemson, Florida State football game, give us a call.
Well, I think Clemson's response to the ACC with all the pressure they're trying to put on them about moving the Carolina game to Friday, I think tells you everything you need to know. Clemson has zero interest in cooperating with the Atlantic Coast Conference. If we didn't know that before, we certainly know it after what happened last week. All right, 888-898-2525. If you'd like to be on the program here tonight, we've got a busy show. We're actually going to hear from Tate Reynolds, the quarterback commitment to Clemson from over the weekend that Smitty was touching on a few minutes ago. Phil Kornblut caught up with him, I guess, over the weekend, so we'll bring that interview to you as part of our recruiting. Also coming up in just a little bit, we'll catch up with John Williams, the Sooners Wire. He covers Oklahoma University athletics, and we're going to chat with him about the Sooners' first full week in the SEC. Was it a surprise to them? Who knows? Because it was certainly a surprise to us, and we'll get his take on that and squeeze in your phone calls as well. So we've got room to make for you at 888-898-2525. And, of course, Phil would not leave us alone without a good helping of Sewell's recruiting. We've got that and more as this Monday evening moves along. Chris Bergen here in Sardis, Smitty over in Georgetown, Josh Cohen ready to line you up in Columbia. You be a part of Sports Talk here on this Monday night on the Sports Talk Media Network.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Muggy this evening with a low temperature dipping to just 75. Tomorrow, more of what we've had, hot and humid. 96 the high, a 30% chance we get afternoon showers. For the rest of the week, high temperatures in the mid-90s, rain chances every day about 30 to 40%, and low temperatures getting down to the mid-70s each night. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Happy birthday, America! At Palmetto State Armory, we love spreading freedom. So come in between June 28th and July 7th to shop our Independence Day deals. Available in-store only. We have discounts on Big Brand Springfield, Vortex, Chronos Knives, Columbia Apparel, Hey Dude Footwear, and more. There are also discounts on holsters, triggers, and all t-shirts. Can't make it to the store? Visit us at PalmettoStateArmory.com for even more deals. Palmetto State Armory, always proud to be American-made for life.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting President Biden, in a public letter to congressional Democrats, is standing firm against calls for him to drop his candidacy after his dismal debate performance. Biden, in a 2-page letter Monday, the question of how to move forward has been well aired for over a week now, and it's time for it to end. The Republican National Committee's Platform Committee is adopting a policy document that reflects former President Donald Trump's position, opposing a federal abortion ban and ceding limits to the states. It's the first time a national abortion ban has been omitted in 40 years. The move comes as Trump imposes his priorities on the committee as he seeks to steer clear of strict abortion language. On Wall Street, Dow down by 31 points, the NASDAQ rose 50. This is SRN News.
You hear about all these tax credits available for getting solar power for your home or your business, and yeah, they're pretty awesome. But what about your church? Yeah. What about your nonprofit? How can you benefit from tax credits if you don't pay taxes? Well, now there's a great program in place for nonprofits. Think about that. Your church still has a pretty big power bill, right? What about taking control, saving that church money every single month by using solar power from Broker Solar? Installation rebates, tremendous savings. Bet you've never even thought about it. Maybe it's time to talk about it at your church or your nonprofit. Broker Solar has all the answers. Ken and his team know every program, every opportunity for your home, your business, and yes, your nonprofit. So you can save dollars, get rebates, get government credits. Isn't it worth looking into? Online, it's brokersolar.com, or give Ken a call, 807 807-7417 at Broker Solar. That's 807-7417, and tell them Kev sent you.
Hey y'all, this is Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We'd like you and your family to dine with us. We have a great menu that's sure to please your whole family. We have fresh cooked burgers, big juicy wings, blue plate menu featuring country cooking, oven baked hoagies, fresh crisp salads, authentic Greek food like gyros, souvlaki, and baklava. We also carry 20 different premium cheesecakes and pies. Flight Deck Restaurant also has an arcade with 30 different games like Star Wars, Batman, Skee Ball, Bass Wheel, Pac-Man, Galaga, and so much more. Flight Deck, your favorite family restaurant. Thanks y'all and God bless.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Excuse me, can I interest you in an easy way to reduce your energy usage and save money at home?
Yeah.
Did you know Dominion Energy has an online store?
No. Where is this online store?
Online at EnergyWise Shop.
What's in it for me?
Huge discounts off Energy Star certified smart thermostats, advanced power strips.
Any hidden fees?
No. And you get free shipping with qualified orders.
I see EnergyWiseShop.com in my future. Thanks for the tip.
Certain restrictions apply.
As we celebrate 10 fantastic years at Sweet Comfort Services, we're cooling you off with unbeatable deals on all SEER 2 and high-efficiency AC equipment. Hey Point family, mention this ad and get a thorough spring maintenance check from our expert non-commissioned techs for just $95 for your first system and a chill $45 each system. Look us up at sweethvac.com or call us at 331-8143. Celebrating a decade of keeping you cool and comfy. That's the Sweet Comfort promise.
Should Paul Skeens be the National League All-Star starting pitcher next week? We'll get Smitty's take on that a little bit later on with the All-Star rosters coming out over the weekend. 888-898-2525. Chris Bergen alongside Matt Smith, Josh Cohen on this Monday night, inching ever closer, believe it or not, to SEC Media Days. We'll be fully immersed next week in Dallas, Texas in talking season. And there'll be a couple of new faces there in the SEC, Texas and Oklahoma. And it was almost 3 years ago to the day that we learned that Texas and Oklahoma had somehow stealthily figured out a way to get out of the Big 12 and join the SEC. They officially joined last Monday. And joining us now to talk about the first full week for the Oklahoma Sooners inside the Southeastern Conference is the managing editor of Sooners Wire. Sooners Wire on Twitter as well, and also at Locked On Sooners. His name is John Williams, self-proclaimed and probably true, the nicest guy on Twitter, as we say hello to John. John, welcome to South Carolina, Columbia, and the state, and also welcome you and your team to the SEC.
Hey, well, thank you very much. And it's not self-proclaimed. I've been called the nicest guy on Twitter since my days covering the Dallas Cowboys years ago. But no, excited to be in the SEC. It's a monumental season in college football, and I mean, conference realignment is always, and it's been something that's been at the forefront of college football for much of the last 25, 30 years. But what's happening this year is absolutely incredible with what Oklahoma and Texas are joining in the SEC, but also adding to the SEC.
John, that is a great moniker to have and a great honor to be proclaimed by Cowboys fans, I assume, the nicest guy on Twitter. How did all of that come about? And do you miss covering the Cowboys?
Well, I do not miss covering the Cowboys. It's been frustrating also being a fan of the Cowboys. But no, just the way interacting with people via social media. You know how there are a number of just people out there that want to debate and argue and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'll try to spit facts and not get too heated one way or the other on things. So, but you know, love covering the Sooners. It's been such a fun ride these last 4 or 5 years that I've been able to talk Oklahoma football and beyond. But man, these last 3 years since the announcement of the move to the SEC has just created this anticipation and excitement for what's to come, especially this first year where marquee matchup after marquee matchup and reunions with, you know, Josh Heupel and Shane Beamer and man, it's just a fun season that we're about to watch unfold.
Well, you spitting forth facts, you're going to fit in well here on Sports Talk. We love having you on the program. John Williams joins us here tonight talking about Oklahoma's first full week in the SEC. And John, let's go back to the beginning. Tail end of July, and if memory serves, news was breaking. I can't remember if it was official or just rumors during SEC media days back in 2021. But when the announcement came out that Oklahoma and Texas were joining the SEC, it clearly surprised a bunch of us around here in South Carolina. Was it a shock and surprise to you guys?
It absolutely was. It was my first full month over at Sooners Wire. And I don't think anybody had heard any rumblings of this being the case. And it had been some time since Oklahoma was connected to conference realignment. You know, you have to go back almost a decade to, Pac-12 and the rumors that were at play there. But no, I don't think anybody saw this coming. The powers that be did a really good job at keeping this hush-hush in a world where nothing seems to stay hush-hush and everything gets leaked by somebody somewhere. The fact that it was months in the making, dating back to the early spring, to hear Greg Sankey and Joe Castiglione and Chris Del Conte talk about it, it was a bit of a surprise, I think, for everybody that does cover the Oklahoma Sooners, but also at the same time, understanding the world that we live in college football, in college athletics, it came as understandable because Joe Castiglione, he's been with the Sooners for 25 plus years, and he's always been a forward-thinking athletic director. And so it's not too terribly surprising to see them see the landscape of college football, see where it's headed, and decide, hey, you know what, the SEC gives us the best opportunity for not just, immediate financial security, but long-term financial security as, the media rights deals become a bigger player in college athletics.
Sticking with the big picture first, and then we'll focus in on the football team, but clearly, there are sports at Oklahoma that will fit right in Southeastern Conference play, and I don't think miss a beat. And I'll start with softball. This is a move for everybody. Anytime these type mega conference moves occur, it's for football. But how much do you think some of the other sports made Oklahoma attractive, especially a team that has become the softball dynasty like what Patty Gasso has been able to build at OU?
She's excited about it. Everybody's excited about it. I mean, Big 12 play has provided good competition, obviously, because of Texas and Oklahoma State. This year, adding UCF provided some of that, BYU. But it's hard to find a conference as deep as the SEC is in softball. I mean, you could put it up against anybody in the country, Pac-12, that's no longer, the Big 12. But the SEC, I mean, they had all 13 teams in the NCAA tournament last year. Say what you will about how much quality there might have been with some of those teams. The fact that all 13 made it in says something to the depth of the conference. And so I think everybody's really, really excited for what that's going to mean for softball next season. Patty Gasso is under no illusion that it's going to be some kind of cakewalk. She acknowledged on SEC Celebration Day that it was going to be a grind. But she has always welcomed it. She's always been trying to schedule big-time teams, big-time programs in their non-conference to add to the level of competition that they have. And so, man, it's going to be super fun. LSU has been really, really good. Tennessee, Florida, obviously, they were just a few, outs away from knocking off Oklahoma and, going to the, College World Series finals themselves. So that's a really, really good program. So the SEC, I mean, it's stacked in college softball, and it's going to be a lot of fun for the Sooners.
John Williams joining us here on Sports Talk. He is from Sooners Wire. And, John, you had a good way of putting it. You said, just a lot of great matchups coming, a lot of great reunions for Oklahoma. But let me put it differently. An Oklahoma fan might look at Texas's schedule coming into the SEC and realize, okay, the first road conference game, the first opposing SEC stadium they'll visit is First Bank Stadium at Vanderbilt. Oklahoma, meanwhile, is going to Auburn, Alabama. They'll play Oklahoma will play Tennessee, will play Ole Miss, will play South Carolina, and close the season with Alabama and LSU. Meanwhile, Texas drew Mississippi State. Yes, they have Georgia, but they have a Florida team that might be rebuilding, Arkansas, Kentucky, before the renewal of the rivalry against Texas A&M. There would be some Oklahoma fans, I would guess, that would say this is an uneven scheduling as you start off in the SEC. What was your reaction?
Yeah, there's certainly a disparity between the strength of schedule for Oklahoma and Texas. But Oklahoma fans, I mean, this is what we were anticipating when we were joining the SEC. I don't think anybody was sitting there laying back expecting that it was going to be some kind of easy ride. Now, Oklahoma fans are used to Texas kind of getting a favorable schedule in conference play. It kind of always seemed to turn out that way with Texas, even in the Big 12. But, yeah, the way that this kind of worked out, it just happened to be one of those kind of cycles of program development that, hey, Tennessee's really, really good right now. Obviously, Texas is really good. Ole Miss is really good. Missouri is really good. Alabama, LSU, both really, really good. And then you throw in a road trip to Auburn that is not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't matter what their record is going to be when September 28 comes around. That's going to be a really, really tough place to play and a really tough team to play. So the schedule is stacked. It's marquee matchups. It's really, really difficult teams. I mean, that Shane Beamer South Carolina team, I think we can sleep on it pretty easily because of the strength and the quality of opponent that are on the rest of Oklahoma's schedule. But, I mean, Lenore Sellers, Shane Beamer, he's a really, really good coach. There's a lot of athleticism, a lot of talent on that roster as well. They recruit pretty well, too. So it's going to be a tough matchup when they roll into Norman. But, I mean, the schedule is what the schedule is. Oklahoma is going to have to go and face it. And, hey, if they can get through the first couple months of the schedule and have just one loss and get to November, they'll be in a really good spot, and they'll have been battle-tested, and they'll be in a good place to maybe make the college football playoff if they can handle their November well.
John, Oklahoma just extended Brent Venables, so obviously the men and women in business suits are sold on Brent Venables. Is Sooner Nation sold on Brent Venables?
I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but most people that I speak to or most people I interact with would say yes. And it's the cultural development of the program that's at place. It's rebuilding a defense that was non-existent during Lincoln Riley's tenure. Even the best defense that they had in 2021, arguably the best defense they had in 2021, it was still inconsistent, and it still gave up, too many points and too many big plays at times. And what Brent Venables has done in just a few years on the recruiting trail, I mean, he's had 3 top 10 classes according to 247 Sports, on the verge of probably having another top 10 class here in the 2025 cycle. He's doing it holistically, where he's not just, building through the defensive side of the ball, which is his specialty, his expertise. He's getting blue chip and 5-star prospects on both sides of the ball. And there's reason to be optimistic about what the future holds, as Oklahoma has one of the highest blue chip ratios in the nation. Over the last 3 cycles, only 4 teams have recruited on average better than Oklahoma, and that's the teams that you'd expect: Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Texas. Well, Oklahoma is just right there behind those 4 teams. So everything is looking up. Things are optimistic. They went from 6-7 last year to 10-3 or 6-7 in year 1 to 10-3 last year. Went and beat a Texas team that nobody expected them to beat, and again, looks like a team that's progressing and on the rise. And a lot of it is the on-field stuff, but also the stuff that's happening off the field as well.
John, I think we can probably figure out the harsh feelings when Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, with that rivalry going, at least for now, by the boards. How much do you think that may have motivated Oklahoma State in the football game last year, maybe a last crack at Oklahoma before they head out the door?
Well, I think it's been a factor for the last several years. I mean, each time that Oklahoma has gone into Stillwater the last 2 times, Oklahoma State was able to pick up a win. So Oklahoma State fans, it's college football, right? In college football, you hold grudges. You embrace the pettiness. You embrace the vitriol. That's what kind of makes college football so great. And so going into Stillwater is never really an easy task, but leaving for the SEC and the way Oklahoma State fans and administrators, Mike Gundy, other coaches inside the program feel about Oklahoma, I'm sure added a little bit of fuel to the fire and gave everybody a little bit of extra energy to go cheer on the Cowboys. But I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that one day we'll get Bedlam renewed. It's a matchup that means something. It may not be OU Texas, but it's one of those that moves the needle in this region that everybody gets excited for, everybody gets up for. Even if you're a casual college football fan, you have a side that you pick when it comes to Bedlam. So hopefully one day the cooler heads will prevail and they'll get football back on the schedule. You know how it is. Like non-conference schedules are scheduled out so far in advance that it can be hard to manage some of those things. But you see other, Washington State figuring it out, and Oregon State figuring it out. So I'm hopeful that at some point they'll figure it out on the football field. Basketball is going to play, softball is going to play. So I imagine that down the road, Bedlam will return to the schedule. Now, will it be just a home and home, or will they make it an annual game, much like Clemson, South Carolina? Hopefully that's the case. I would love to see Bedlam on the schedule annually moving forward.
I agree with you. It's got such a cool name as well. You've got to have Bedlam played. And we've talked about it here on this show about South Carolina and Clemson being in different conferences, and with expansion, would there be a scenario where the state legislature needs to step in and mandate that USC and Clemson play every year? They haven't to this point. It hasn't been a problem, but you never know. Is that something that's talked about out in Oklahoma? Do the folks there need to step in possibly on down the road and figure out a way to pass some legislation to make sure that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play?
I think at this point, I've not heard of any of the politicians trying to make moves on that front. But I think for a lot of Oklahoma fans, and I'm kind of in the minority, I think a lot of Oklahoma fans are okay with it going by the wayside. A lot of Oklahoma State fans, I think, are okay with it going by the wayside. But in a sport that's losing a lot of tradition seemingly by the year, protecting some of these games matters. And hopefully out there in South Carolina, the powers that be in the schools understand the importance of keeping that game on the schedule annually. And at some point, the powers that be here in the state of Oklahoma will figure out, hey, we need to get this back on the schedule. It's good for our state. It's good for our local economies. It makes a lot of sense. So let's make this happen.
John, we'll let you get out of here on this. I'm sure you're looking forward to SEC Football Media Days starting next Monday out in Dallas, Texas. Jackson Arnold's going to be representing OU, the sophomore quarterback. What can you tell us about him? What will Gamecock fans see out of him when they try and defend him? And it's unusual to see a sophomore going. I guess that sort of tells us everything we need to know about what Brent Venables thinks of him, right?
Yeah, he's a cool, calm, and collected quarterback. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. Limited experience last year, but, got to have 4 games of, I would say, extended action where he got to throw some passes and do some things. And, he has all the tools. He's a former Gatorade National Player of the Year, former Elite 11 MVP, 5-star quarterback. So much of it's going to come down to how he reacts to some of the environments that he plays in and some of the defenses that he faces. This is a whole new adventure for everybody inside the program. For Jackson Arnold, it's going to be his first year starting, but he has all the tools to be really, really successful. He has the right mental makeup, right intangibles, the right character to go and be successful. So, it's going to be fascinating to see how his first swim through SEC play goes.
He's not just the nicest guy on Twitter. He's also the nicest and smartest guy on Sports Talk. John Williams, the managing editor at Sooners Wire, and also podcast host at Locked On Sooners, dialing us up here tonight to give us an insight into the first full week of SEC action, at least as a membership for Oklahoma. John, we appreciate the time so much. Thanks for carving out a few minutes for us here tonight. Look forward to we'll have Phil Kornblut, our leader, out in Dallas next week. Hopefully you guys can run into one another, and we'll see you on down the road.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much for having me on. It's always good to talk to the real USC.
I like it. I'm sure Gamecock fans will appreciate that as well. John, thank you so much. Enjoy the week.
Hey, have a
like a pro wrestler playing to the home crowd.
He was able to drop the atomic bomb on the way out the door. Not just the nicest, smartest guy on Twitter. I like that stuff. Good stuff from John Williams. We'll rehash some of what he had to say. We've got recruiting on the way. Your phone calls, though, will come up next at 888-898-2525. Monday here on Sports Talk.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799 1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
We're with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer, let's say I'm out in the woods or I'm on the water and I need to reach a DNR agent. How do I do that?
Operation Game Thief, Phil. It's been around 30 plus years. You can call us at our 24-hour hotline any time of day, 1-800-922-5431. To report wildlife violations or to get help if you're in trouble in the woods or on the water, call us at Operation Game Thief, 1-800-922-5431.
Stay tuned. More Sports Talk is coming up on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hosteller-Brown. Did you know it's possible to avoid probate court after you die, regardless of what you own? Why put your loved ones through a long, stressful process when there are better options for your family? Visit lawyerlisa.com to see how we can help.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has introduced a new rolling jackpot, and it's big.
How big? Bigger than a striped bass? Reel 'em in.
Way bigger.
Bigger than this world-class golf course? Or
bigger than that.
Even bigger than the Gaffney Peach?
Let's just say with this new rolling jackpot, Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today and check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at seeducationlottery.com.
Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 850,668.
George Bryant here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and wow, Tsunami Robbie, there is now an amazing technology that you can use when you train receiving large game without having to endure pain. Please explain.
George, that is the magic combination. I have 3 simple words to define that entire concept. Stimulation, not annihilation. Regardless of your training goals, there is a level of stimulation that is optimal to desired gains. Tsunami Bar's flexible bar technology meets these demands because the user determines the level of stimulation with the amount of speed and force they impart into the bar or training device.
Hey, this is Phil Kornblut. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
Thanks again to John Williams for joining us, talking a little Oklahoma sports and OU football. They'll be officially welcomed into the SEC fray next week at SEC Media Days out in Dallas. I mentioned that the attendees were announced a bit earlier today from South Carolina's perspective. Gamecocks actually going on Monday of next week, so they'll be chatting. We'll have stuff for you on Monday evening right here on Sports Talk and also at SportsTalkSC.com. Phil Kornblut will be on location in Dallas. Luke Doty, Alex Huntley, and also Debo Williams will join Shane Beamer as the Gamecock contingent out at SEC Media Days. So it'll be a quick trip out there for them Monday. Come on back and starts zeroing in to the start of the football season. Smitty, before we get to the phones, I think it's somewhat interesting and maybe a tip of the cap in respect for the loyalty that Luke Doty has shown the program, that he is one of the trio of players going out there, because I'm guessing most SEC media types, unless you follow the Gamecocks fairly closely, have very little idea as to who he is. So the fact that Shane Beamer thinks enough of him, even though he has not played and certainly has not been able to have the career I think he would have wanted coming out of Myrtle Beach, he had so many accolades coming out as a quarterback with the Seahawks. My guess is Shane Beamer said, look, yeah, I can't thank you enough, and this is a little bit of homage to his loyalty, because I would think Luke had opportunities to go elsewhere and find a place where he could play a little bit more permanently, but decided to stick with the Gamecocks.
Yes, and I like Luke Doty as a player. And I made the offhand comment to you, Chris, through text. If you're still listed as an athlete in your 4th year in the program, the coaches have failed you. And
I think you're right. Yeah.
I mean, to pull that apart a little bit further, I think you can argue, DeCarrion Joyner committed under Will Muschamp, I think, and maybe Doty did too. was under Will Muschamp, and I think he played a year under Muschamp, and I remember Coach Muschamp saying, you've got to get Doty on the field. He's one of the 11 best athletes. You've got to find a way to get him on the field. Well, fast forward, and here we are, and still he's not playing consistently or contributing in a meaningful way. And I don't actually think that's Luke Doty's fault. I think that this staff and the one before it haven't done a great job of finding a way to maximize his talents and athleticism. Mm-hmm. And this seems to be happening, right, at South Carolina. I mentioned DeCarrion Joyner. To be honest, I don't think they got everything they could have gotten out of DeCarrion Joyner. Yes, he had some big moments, but he didn't contribute consistently. And right. I feel like, dating back a couple of coaching staffs now, they haven't done a good job. You see it other programs, these hybrid players, these X factors, the Hines Wards or Cordell Stewart's types that have been playing at other schools, they seem to be excelling sometimes, whereas Luke Doty just is lost in the shuffle and he's jerked around. He's a different position every time we look up. And maybe the fact that he's going to SEC Media Days means that Shane Beamer has a plan in place this season, finally, for Luke Doty so that they can squeeze the talent out of him, and hopefully it can help the Gamecocks propel the Gamecocks offense.
Well, and from just a strictly media perspective, I'd want to hear from Lenore Sellers, quite frankly. I mean, that's the guy that's going to steer the truck this year. He's going to have the keys to the car. He's the one you'd want to hear from. I get it. He's a young guy in the program, hasn't really established himself yet. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is probably a salute to Luke Doty, who was Mr. Football here in our state back in 2019. Hard to believe it's been that long ago. And I think that's the reason he's going. But I think most media members would much prefer to hear from Lenore Sellers. No knock on Luke, but Lenore is going to be the guy. All right, your phone calls right after the top of the hour break here on Sports Talk.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Tropical Storm Beryl knocked out power to more than 2 million homes and businesses in the Houston area as it swept across the Texas coast. After making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane early Monday, Beryl unleashed heavy rains that prompted dozens of high-water rescues of stranded residents. Houston Mayor John Whitmire says flooding remains a major issue.
Houstonians, anyone that can hear my voice, shelter in place. Shelter in place. We're in an emergency. We're in a rescue mode. Life safety. We're literally getting calls across Houston right now asking for first responders to come rescue individuals in desperate life safety conditions.
The storm has moved inland and is heading north-northeast. Meanwhile, in other parts of the country, record-breaking heat is the problem.
Authorities in Oregon's Multnomah County, which is home to Portland, have reported at least 4 suspected heat-related deaths. National Weather Service meteorologist Hannah Chandler Cooley says Oregon's most populous city broke daily record temperatures on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And we're seeing record-breaking daily high temperatures as well as pretty warm overnight lows.
The county has been operating 3 daytime cooling centers with the aim of providing relief to those most vulnerable to heat-related illness, like people living outside, older people, people with disabilities, and people whose homes don't have air conditioning. I'm Haya Panjwani.
President Biden, in a public letter to congressional Democrats, is standing firm against calls for him to drop his candidacy after his dismal debate performance. Biden wrote in a 2-page letter Monday, "The question of how to move forward has been well aired for over a week now, and it's time for it to end." More on these stories at townhall.com.
See, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is MediShare. And maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for health care can save many families up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. Medishare works, too. It's been around for 30 years. Members have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton, make it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. See what you can save. This is a very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. Call 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
Most medical students at Baltimore's Johns Hopkins University will no longer pay tuition thanks to a $1 billion gift from Bloomberg Philanthropies. We hear on the story from correspondent Rita Foley reporting.
Starting in the fall, the gift will cover full tuition for medical students from families earning less than $300,000. Living expenses and fees will be covered for students from families who earn up to $175,000. Bloomberg Philanthropies founder Michael Bloomberg says the gift will allow students to serve more families and communities who need them the most. And although this may sound stunning, Johns Hopkins will be only the latest medical school to offer free tuition to most or all of its medical students after gifts from benefactors. I'm Rita Foley.
The entertainment giant Paramount will merge with Skydance. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Muggy this evening with a low temperature dipping to just 75. Tomorrow, more of what we've had, hot and humid. 96 the high, a 30% chance we get afternoon showers. For the rest of the week, high temperatures in the mid-90s, rain chances every day about 30 to 40, and low temperatures getting down to the mid-70s each night. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Ooh, you shouldn't have pressed that button. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Now you get this.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery number. 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Slowly piecing the band back together on a Monday edition of Sports Talk Media Network. Chris Bergen alongside Josh Cohen. Josh and I both back from vacation last week. Meantime, back by popular demand, Matt Smith for his second consecutive week co-hosting and hosting Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut has the week off, gearing up for a trip out to Dallas, Texas. I don't think Korn is there, but at least yet. So he'll be out in Dallas all next week for SEC Media Days. We've got ACC Media Days the following week, Sunbelt Media Days. We are getting into talking season. As a matter of fact, Smitty, the SIAC, where Benedict and Allen reside, they'll be hosting their football media days on Wednesday. So it is here. We are, as you mentioned back in the first hour of the program, we have gotten through July 4th, and that for us means it's time to turn our focus almost solely to college football. However, before we get to phones and your phone calls, the poll question of the week, I had to mention this right off the bat because I think this is funny. Phil does our poll questions, and 9 times out of 10 never misses. Either the question itself is pertinent or the choices you have are the right ones. Phil messed up here. There's no other way around it. He messed up here because our poll question this week at SportsTalkSC.com, at SportsTalkSC on Twitter. You can also vote on our website at SportsTalkSC.com. Smitty, is who was the baseball coach of the year in South Carolina for 2024? And your choices are Eric Bakich at Clemson, Gary Gilmore at Coastal, Mark Kingston at South Carolina, and J.J. Edwards at Wofford. Now, right off the bats, do you find anything interesting about that foursome?
Yes. Mark Kingston got a train ticket out of town.
Exactly. So what's he doing in the list here? Because you can't get fired and then also be named state baseball coach of the year, can you?
You could, under certain extreme circumstances, I suppose you could. But in this case, I hope our listeners and followers on Twitter are not going to vote him atop this poll.
No, he's actually in fourth place, as a matter of fact. Chad Holbrook is the name that should have been in his place from the College of Charleston.
Agreed.
But,
by the way,
I
just want to throw that out to amplify your point. College of Charleston was 41-14 this season, 21-5 in the Colonial, and finished first place in the Colonial in the regular season. They just didn't win the tournament, and they ended up not getting a bid to the NCAA tournament, to the regionals. But I just want to amplify your point. I was just looking at his record, 41-14 this year. He should be. He's in the discussion. In other words, even though the committee made a mistake.
Well, and I think our listeners have made a mistake, but it happens anytime we have a poll question that is somewhat centered around the Gamecocks and Tigers. One of those two schools is going to usually win, and that's the case right now. Eric Backich with 58% of the vote, and he did a tremendous job, not taking anything away from the job that Eric Backich did, finally figuring out a way to get out of a regional, go to the Supers. They were 2 wins away from going to Omaha. You can give a nod, sort of a sentimental nod, to Gary Gilmore on his final season. It's certainly a Lifetime Achievement Award would go to Gary. Gilly would certainly win that going away. The correct answer, though, you folks, is J.J. Edwards at Wofford. And he's got 15% of the vote. Eric Backich has 58%. J.J. Edwards took a team to the NCAA tournament that had not been since 2007. He won an NCAA tournament game for the first time ever. Nobody in our state did a better job with what he's got to work with than J.J. Edwards did at Wofford. He's the answer. Again, Eric Backich did a phenomenal job at Clemson this year. They were outstanding. He was not Coach of the Year. It's J.J. Edwards. That's the answer.
I fully support. By the way, I'm like you. I will say, I'll give a tip of the cap. I think Backich did a terrific job this year, holding things together through the ups and the downs. Because one thing that he has to deal with that J.J. Edwards doesn't is he's going to have a spotlight on him, and plus there's going to be the additional pressure of at the end of the year you have to get out of the regional. That's all there is, Eric. We don't care. We don't care how great you were in the regular season. We just know that you have to find your way out of a regional. And he as you said, he was able to do that and nearly went to the College World Series. But to your point, J.J. Edwards at Wofford has none of the advantages of the other coaches or resources, not even at Coastal Carolina. To take Wofford to the regionals, that's fine. Day one, they lost to LSU 4-3. 1-run game against LSU. Then they beat Long Island the next day 5-2, and they finally ran out of pitching and lost 13-6 to LSU. But think about that, a 1-run loss to LSU, and then they put up 6 runs against LSU, in the elimination game. And that's not to mention all the wins you had that Wofford had. I could roll through the schedule, but the SoCon is not a pushover. And they ended up beating a very good Samford team twice to advance to the regionals. So I'm in full 100% agreement with you. J.J. Edwards should be our state coach of the year, and tied for second and have Chad Holbrook and Eric Backich.
But I think we're all in agreement. Mark Kingston should not be in this poll question, correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in. And if there's only 4 slots, I'd have to give it to guys that didn't get fired. That would be one of my criteria.
That should be the lowest criteria, right? You should still have your job at your current school. You should still be working in the state of South Carolina to be able to win this award.
How about this? How about most popular coach in the state of South Carolina might be Paul Maneri. He's undefeated.
There's no question. He certainly is. All right, folks, you can participate. Let us know if we're right, wrong, or indifferent at SportsTalkSC.com and also on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We've got recruiting coming up in a little while, a conversation that Phil Kornblut had with Clemson commit at quarterback for the 2026 class, Tate Reynolds. But since you folks have been kind enough to sit on hold and listen to us babble for an hour, we're going to turn it over to you now as we head off to the phones. And on this Monday, week prior to SEC Media Day, where else should we start than with Gamecock Larry kicking us off this week? GCL, how are you? Hope you had a great Independence Day weekend.
I had a good time. Good Fourth. Good evening, Chris, Smitty, and Josh. 4th of July is past, nothing much in sports, but I'm going to start some little bit of trash talking. Trash talking time. Georgia will not go undefeated this year. They will wind up 10-2. Or maybe they'll lose at least 2 games. Clemson, Tiger Bryan, your Clemson Tigers go 7-5. 7-5. Just will make a bowl game. Tiger Bryan, are you listening? I'm talking to you, buddy. And now, the Gamecocks. Until we lose one, I'm saying 12-0. Just want to holler at you. Enjoy talking to you. You make my day. Now I'm going to take me a melatonin, and I'm going to sleep. But I'm a whole... I'll talk to you all later. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy you giving the old man a little bit of time to holler and yell. But I love my Gamecocks. We gonna go 12-0 until we lose one. Then we'll be 11-1. Go Gamecocks.
All right,
Gamecock Larry. I wonder if Las Vegas lets him take that route, Smitty. He can bet on USC going 12-0, and then if Carolina loses the game, he can move the line a little bit to go to 11-1 and keep moving the line until he's correct. Or would Vegas make him put an additional bet in every time?
I was going to tell you, though, in Las Vegas, they have got Clemson's win total at 9.5, but what's called juiced heavily to the under. So they've got it between 9 and 9.5. Okay. So just to, to have that in your mind, that's what Las Vegas thinks about Clemson this season. And South Carolina, this is one, I don't know if where Gamecock Larry resides, if maybe they've got a pool, maybe they do cards. They have a melatonin dealer apparently. So maybe they do cards, but you could get South Carolina, the win total, 5.5. Now, a lot of that has to do with how difficult their schedule is this season. And, we never know how things are going to play out, and you have injuries both for South Carolina and their opponents. But right now, that win total at 5.5. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, I've heard this every year that I've worked with Phil Kornblut. He's going way over. He's taking the over. He's going to talk himself into it. He may take the over on Clemson as well. By the way, Chris, if you're just curious, I can run through a couple more. North Carolina's at 7.5. Florida is at 4.5. If that comes to pass, goodbye, Billy Napier.
There'll be a job open in Gainesville.
Yes, he would not survive at 4 wins.
Georgia, Josh may go help him pack.
Yeah, Josh would help him pack if he goes.
I'd be mad. I have assigned Billy Napier Florida football, so I'd be mad that I lost my money on that. But anyways.
4-8 is what he'd have to go to be under. Yeah. Georgia is at 10.5. Remember, Georgia has a game against Texas this year. And Texas, according to the recruiting analyst, has like a top 5 roster right now. And, of course, they have Quinn Ewers at quarterback. So that Georgia-Texas game is going to have a lot to say about the SEC standings. Oklahoma's at 7.5 wins. Thought maybe you'd find that interesting because that's the other one. Brent Venables just got an extension. But I will tell you, they will not be happy at OU if he finishes 7-5 in his first season in the SEC.
Yeah, there's no doubt, because the rumors are where the narrative will be. Well, of course, he can't coach against really good competition. This may be somewhat of an unpopular narrative, but I think it's a fair debate to have. I think Georgia's schedule overall is more difficult than what South Carolina has to face. But the problem is, and the reason people don't look at it, I think, is similarly, is Georgia's a much better football team. But you look at their schedule, they open up with Clemson. Okay, the Gamecocks finish with the Tigers. But they also have to go to Kentucky. That's not an automatic given that they'll win. They go to Alabama. They also go to Texas. They've got the cocktail game against Florida. And then they also have to go to Ole Miss. And if Mississippi's as good as everybody says, you talk about their SEC road games, they're extremely hard. I could see Gamecock Larry being right on Georgia. There's no way Clemson goes 7-5. I can't find 5 losses even in their worst day. But I can't find 5 losses. But Georgia could go easily 9-3 and have a very good team. I mean, a really good team.
You're right, and you know what all that would do is harden that group for the college football playoff. this year,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
they'd be in.
expanding. So, yeah, you're right. Georgia, I think all of this, to have this kind of schedule, it actually really hits at the right time because Georgia's going to get the benefit of the doubt, right? Two-time defending national champions and their brand, just like Alabama's been getting the benefit of the doubt. I think the Bulldogs are going to the college football playoff, and it's quite possible if they get nicked up on the way a little bit and catch a scar, that could, wrap that team into attention, and Kirby Smart could use it as fuel the rest of the way. I think it actually play in their favor. And think about this. If they go to Alabama and they go to Texas, win or lose, they will play in no tougher environment in the college football playoff than having to do that during the regular season.
No, absolutely not. All right, 888-898-2525 as we stay on the phones with you here on this Monday evening. Head off to Missouri and say hello to our good friend Bruce. Bruce, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Good evening.
Hey, guys, I appreciate you taking my call tonight.
Absolutely.
Y'all had a guest on that was talking about North Carolina, what they're going to do, and this, that, and the other. North Carolina has a dirty history behind them, and they should have been shut down a long time ago as a qualified university. A lady came on the air, on the radio station in Columbia, they were interviewing her, and she was the person on the committee to evaluate if the universities would stay at their level of accreditation. North Carolina failed because of Black history curriculum they had. It wasn't up to snuff. In fact, a secretary was doing all the stuff for the curriculum, and that went on for 20 years. And then they had the gain of function situation with the COVID. They're still doing the gain of function because they got immunity because they were ahead of the legislature talking about. They were ahead of the determination at Congress to not use that in the United States, so they went to China with it. That's the dirty history of North Carolina. They shouldn't even be at the rating of a university.
All right, Bruce, we appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for the call. 888-898-2525. I will say this. I've not dug deep enough into the scandal, but Smitty, when they have fake classes and kids are getting degrees that they may not have qualified for, and a scandal that goes back to, 2010. Yeah, Bruce is right on one thing. He may not be right on all of that, but he's right on one thing. The University of North Carolina skated by for a long, long time and should have been hammered by the NCAA, because if you're going to purport yourself as an organization that handles academics and also athletics, and you let one of them slip by the board, I don't care who it is, you lose all credibility. And I think that may have been the beginning of the end for the NCAA. Forget name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal and the like. When you let North Carolina get away with academic fraud and you did nothing to the university, and then you're going to turn around and hammer some other school because they gave out T-shirts on a recruiting visit, come on.
Yeah, my contention for a long time, and by the way, Bruce, what you said about, and you were certainly coming down hard on North Carolina, but what we have to say at this point is they came through it. And I mean, that's not me, that's not my opinion about North Carolina. It's that now I think in terms of their reputation, they ended up coming through it. Now, what can we say about that particular scandal as you bring up, Chris? In my mind, and this is my argument all the time about the NCAA, and now we've seen it actually really play out. I say, stop worrying, as you said, about how much cream cheese is on somebody's bagel or whether a kid got a free T-shirt on an unofficial visit. Stop worrying about that. Focus on academics. Because here's the trade that was made all those years, is that you were supposed to give a kid an opportunity, a young man or woman, an opportunity to matriculate at your school, and you were going to use it to elevate the athletic program. And what that young man or woman was going to get, can't guarantee a degree, but an earnest opportunity to earn an education. And if you're committing academic fraud inside the athletic department, you're actually robbing that young man or woman of that opportunity. Now, they may be complicit in it, but you're robbing them. You're not living up to your end of the bargain. That's that. In other words, they're contractually obligated to do that, and they're not doing it. That's what the NCAA, for me, should come down on. Take an NCAA committee member and just put them on each campus and just go by and check and see if the, you say, hey, look, let me see here. We got a tight end, sophomore, supposed to be in a biology lab. Go by that biology lab and check it out, because that is the only thing that really matters, right? Whether the kid goes out and gets a free car afterward, I can't stop that. You can't stop that. The NCAA can't stop that. That's been proven. But you need to be damn sure that those young men and women, whether they be softball players, basketball players, football players, are getting the earnest opportunity to better themselves through education. That doesn't guarantee them a degree, but somebody needs to make sure they're going to class and doing their own work. That's, as you said, the NCAA, major F, major fail, and it's the whole reason nobody has any respect for that organization anymore.
I mean, if it's college athletics, and keep in mind at that point in time, it still was college athletics. It's not the professional game that we now know and deal with. But if it is indeed college athletics, the kids ought to be going to, I don't know, college and being challenged to learn. Yes. And actually going to real classes and not the fake stuff that UNC put out for years, at least allegedly. The NCAA went through there, didn't want to shine the spotlight too brightly on things, but they never found any evidence of wrongdoing.
But I want to say this, because I want to be clear about this for any Tar Heel fans that we have listening. Bruce, you can have your opinion about North Carolina. But what I'm saying is, I think if the Big Ten or the SEC comes calling, I think that scandal is so far in their rearview mirror now. I think they look at North Carolina and see dollar signs, and and that is fine if you don't respect them. But in my mind, when North Carolina is playing in the NCAA basketball tournament, all anybody's thinking about is, that's where Jordan and James Worthy and Sam Perkins and Dean Smith, coached. That's what North Carolina basketball is to those viewers, and that's what ESPN and CBS and ABC are interested in.
Sad, but this is true. The only schools that tout their academic success normally are ones that have none on the playing field. Yeah.
That's obviously, that's why you hear more about Vanderbilt and Northwestern academics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, 888-898-2525. Recruiting coming up after the bottom of the hour, plus the conversation that Phil Kornblut had over the weekend with Clemson. 2026 quarterback commitment Tate Reynolds. That comes up. Plus, I want to get Smitty's take on whether or not Paul Skeens, the former LSU pitcher, should be the starting pitcher for the National League next week in the All-Star game. But let's keep it on the phones and head down to the Low Country and say hello to our good friend Sam down in Charleston. Sam, you're up next here on Sports Talk. How are you, sir?
Good. I just wanted to know that I hope you guys have a good, happy 4th of July at your studio.
We did. Thank you.
I heard you coming about North Carolina. It really hurts me right now. But I'm trying to be careful what I'm saying on the air right now. Is that North Carolina did nothing wrong. Period. They did not get in trouble by the NCAA. And you know what's going to happen. I'm trying to be careful here, but if you guys been talking about the Gamecocks and everything, let me tell you something. When's the last time when South Carolina met North Carolina and Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for a football game? Well, let me put it this way. If this stuff happens again, get ready, because we have a bigger team than South Carolina is. But here's my opinion about my Cougars for the upcoming season. What do you think about the how deep is our bench this upcoming year for basketball season? Because what do you guys think about the upcoming season? Are we going to have a block party? Because I'm ready for a party. You guys want to come?
Sam's always here for the party. Sammy, there.
So we got, yeah. I just want to make sure to clarify about North Carolina, because they did nothing wrong by the NCAA, and I hope Duke will get in trouble for that, because they're the ones who started it all.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, North Carolina cheats with academic scandal, and let's get Duke in trouble. All right. Appreciate it, Sam. We'll keep you abreast as to when the College of Charleston block party will be, because, Smitty, I know Sam loves to go party with the Cougs.
Absolutely. And, hey, we'll cover College of Charleston, when basketball season rolls around. But we've got a lot of football in front of us before we get to that. And, we certainly didn't mean to open the North Carolina can of worms. And I knew that was going to happen because that's what North Carolina, I've talked to so many North Carolina fans. We've done this on this show countless times and other shows countless times it's all he said, she said, according to the North Carolina fan base. And usually what they come up with is they point out some things that Duke had done and other schools had done. But this was one that just rubbed a lot of us the wrong way because it came to academics. It came down to academics. And I'll say this about North Carolina. They have a good academic reputation as a university overall. This took place in the athletic department on the athletic side, and that's another sore point for a lot of people. The fact that North Carolina is able to have a good high academic standing, but at the same time excel on the athletic field, and how they get that done. And some people pointed to this particular scandal as how they did it. So anyway, I hope we can just leave it there and we can move on. I was having so much more fun, Chris, talking about Oklahoma and joining Texas joining the SEC, and also how weird the ACC is going to be. You and I haven't talked about this together. Maybe we'll do it in the last half hour. SMU, Stanford, Cal, those are conference games now. Okay, with ACC teams, Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, Clemson, they're playing some of those teams. To me, it is the weirdest thing we've seen. We've seen, in contiguous conferences before, but never at this high level.
Well, you've waited long enough. Wait a couple of more minutes, and then it's Sports Talk recruiting time here on a Monday night.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Muggy this evening, low temperature to just 75. Tomorrow, more of what we've had, hot and humid. 96 to high, a 30% chance we get afternoon showers. For the rest of the week, high temperatures in the mid-90s, rain chances every day about 30 to 40%, and low temperatures getting down to the mid-70s each night. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Breathe fresh life into your home with Lake Murray Soft Wash. Our team specializes in power washing, soft washing, and restoration. From roof cleaning to wood and concrete washdowns, we've got you covered. For top-notch, affordable services that you can trust, call now, 528-1990, or log on to LakeMurraySoftWash.com to make an appointment. We're not just professionals, we're your neighbors. Whether residential or commercial, Lake Murray Soft Wash sets the standard in cleaning. Embrace the sparkling difference today.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting Texas officials say restoring electricity will take days after Beryl came ashore as a Category 1 hurricane and knocked out power to nearly 3 million homes and businesses. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said that CenterPoint Energy was bringing in thousands of additional workers to help get the lights turned back on quicker. Russian missiles blasted cities across Ukraine, damaging the country's largest children's hospital and other buildings in a fierce assault that interrupted heart surgeries and forced young cancer patients to take their treatments outdoors. Officials said at least 31 people were killed. Monday's daytime barrage targeted 5 Ukrainian cities with more than 40 missiles of different types. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 30 points. This is SRN News.
I sure like to brag about good local businesses. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning is a great local biz. Josh and his team stress customer service as their top priority. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning came out to my house. I had a toilet that wasn't working right, a garbage disposal that died. They came out right on time, told me everything they were going to do, and explained the price of each repair before even bringing in the tools. I knew exactly what I was getting and exactly what it would cost. Their prices are fair, their team is courteous and professional, plus they did a great job fixing what needed fixing in my home. I am very careful making any recommendations, and I'm thrilled and confident to suggest you call Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning for any plumbing needs. If it's a repair or to replace something, if it's that tankless water heater that you've always wanted to give you that endless hot water and save you some money, they unclog drain and sewer lines and so much more. Online, you'll find them at franklinplumbing.sc.com or just give Josh and those great folks a phone call, 799-2222. That's 799-2222, and tell them you heard about them from here at The Point.
This is Fran Halloran. Tune into my show, The Intentional Living Power Hour, on Thursday mornings from 9 to 10 for simple, practical financial coaching on The Point. 100.7 FM, 1470 AM, Columbia's local talk radio experience. Medicare is complicated. For the last few years, Point listeners have been helped by Tim Hamberry and the team at Medicare Blueprint. Tim and his team work hard to make sure that folks who call him get the best advice and service possible. Want further proof that Tim is the right man for the job? Go to Tim's website, www.medicareblueprint.com, and check out the testimonials. Page after page of kind words and thank yous are on that site from Tim's clients. That means something in my book. Go to www.medicareblueprint.com or call Tim at 708-7398.
Hello, this is Stacy Huff, host of Huff Nation Sports Zone, each and every Saturday, 10 to 11 a.m. right here on 100.7 FM, The Point, and also 1470 a.m. It'll be a fun trip around the world of sports. Huff Nation Sports Zone, check it out.
Summers are so special around the lake. The only thing that can make it more special is finally going ahead and getting your own new boat. There's never been a better time than now. Marine 360 has a great selection of 2024s, but they won't last forever. And here's why. Everything Brandon and Scott have in their inventory is available at or below invoice cost. And not because they're good guys, which they really are. I've known them a long time. And not because there's some gimmicky commercial like some guy hawking used cars. I don't do that. That's simply because the manufacturer's rebates from folks like Crest and Sea Hunt, well, they've never been better. So you win, but you need to get moving. As the season goes by, the selection will dwindle. So my suggestion, do your homework. Go online. Look at marine360sc.com. Make an appointment. Go see Brandon and Scott at Marine 360 right on Johnson Marino Road. Look at their showroom. Get a demo on the lake itself. This is the best boating value in years. marine360sc.com or call them 749-2360. That's 749-2360, Marine 360.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
All righty, time to dig into the recruiting report here on Sports Talk, brought to you by our good friends, as always, at Seawell's, the best spot if you've got catering opportunities. Starting to look forward to the upcoming football season, weddings in the fall, graduation ceremonies in December, whatever you might need. Check out SeawellsCateringSC.com for all the details. Don't forget about the daily luncheon buffet. We are crossing our fingers, Josh, that it may reopen tomorrow. We're not quite sure at this point in time, though, correct?
Yeah, I have no clue. I would assume either, tomorrow or, tomorrow would be the only day. They're usually closed on Mondays now, but
right.
Yeah. So tomorrow, hopefully, and then hopefully there's a roast beef Friday because everybody in South Carolina loves roast beef.
We need to cap off the busy week with a roast beef Friday, so we'll let you know tomorrow for sure. But again, it's Seawell's, the best spot for catering, and of course the daily luncheon buffet. In recruiting, South Carolina added another defensive piece to its 2025 recruiting class on Saturday with a public commitment from linebacker Jaden Breaker of Snellville, Georgia. He chose the Gamecocks over NC State and Utah. Breaker made his official visit to USC the first weekend of June, continued with official visits throughout the month with stops at Rutgers, Utah, North Carolina State, and Kentucky. He could grow into a defensive end, but for now, the Gamecocks see him as an outside linebacker. Meantime, Clemson is underway in building the 2026 recruiting class, and the Tigers have started at a good spot, that, of course, being quarterback. On Sunday, they nabbed Tate Reynolds of Queen Creek, Arizona, announcing a commitment to the Tigers. The former Arizona State baseball commit also had offers from West Virginia, Texas A&M, Baylor, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Miami, Tennessee, Washington, Florida State, Oregon, Oklahoma State, and others. Reynolds camped with the Tigers back in June and impressed head coach Dabo Swinney and quarterbacks coach Garrett Riley enough with his arm and his character to earn an offer. He ended up staying several days at Clemson and soon after decommitted from the Sun Devils, and while he was there, he took in Clemson's Super Regional Baseball Series with Florida and has talked with Eric Backage about the possibility of playing both sports at Clemson. As for the possibility of going to pro baseball out of high school, Reynolds said that's not likely to happen. We will hear from Tate Reynolds coming up at the end of this recruiting report. Sunday was a good news, bad news day for USC football coach Shane Beamer. On the good side, he issued a commitment alert for a pending announcement from a 2025 prospect. There are several possible prospects who could eventually claim that alert. Meantime, the bad news, Beamer lost one of his best prospects in cornerback Shamari Earls of Chester, Virginia. Beamer was the first SEC coach to offer Earls, and he committed in April, but he did not take an official visit in June to USC while taking visits to Georgia and Michigan. As you might imagine, he committed Earls actually decommitted Sunday from USC so he could announce his commitment to where else? The University of Georgia. Earls was the only cornerback commitment in the class, and his defection leaves the Gamecocks with 17 commitments. USC target defensive tackle Bryce Jenkins of Washington, D.C. has committed to Maryland. One-time USC target offensive guard Jacoby Ward of Savannah has committed to Auburn. Now, depending on the month, South Carolina and Clemson had high hopes of landing offensive tackle David Sanders, Jr. of Charlotte. Early recruiting network verbiage. I'm proud of Phil for squeezing in verbiage into his recruiting report. Placed the Gamecocks in a strong spot because of multiple visits with Sanders from Sanders in 2023 and also an official visit in early April, his first of 7 official visits. This year he visited in March and again for his official visit in June. Numerous analysts wrote in Clemson as one that would go wire to wire with Sanders. Now 5 weeks away from his commitment announcement, neither has a chance. That's because last night he revealed his final 4 schools as Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia, and Nebraska. He has set August the 17th for his announcement. USC is among the top 12 with a 2026 offensive guard Genevieve Carr of IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. The others on his list are Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, Florida, Louisville, Oklahoma, Michigan, South Florida, and Auburn. He visited USC for the spring game last April. Meantime, Clemson continues to show interest in 2026 offensive tackle Chancellor Barkley of Mineola, Florida. He was offered by the Tigers in June after a camp workout. Some of his other offers are Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Oregon, and Ole Miss. Pardon me, not only did I go on a cruise, Smitty, I also brought back a cough with me. I'm not sure what island infected me, but yeah, I brought back a cough
As
too.
did I. That
was fun. I thought you never got sick.
Wow. Ever. I have a cough. I'm not sick. I have a cough, not sickness.
See.
Wow. He's really having a cough there.
Yeah. No, this is actually improvement. Trust me. Should have been in the car coming home Saturday. I had one of my family members requested me to go to the hospital. It was bad. So it's gotten better, guys. It's gotten better.
It's Turk's revenge, they call it.
It may very well be. It may very well be Turk. I'll just leave it at that. Where was I? Oh, yeah, Georgia. Why not start at the recruiting hotspot of the Southeast? Georgia made an intriguing late addition to its 2024 senior signing class earlier today with a commitment from former elite basketball recruit Jazari Jackson, a 6'11" offensive tackle. 6'11" offensive tackle. He now stands among the tallest players in college football. He spent the last 3 years playing basketball with the Atlanta-based Overtime Elite program. He announced his commitment to Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs earlier this morning, opting for Georgia over Florida, Florida State, Mississippi State, and Arkansas at the end of a rapid-fire recruitment. Jackson, who is 20 years of age, will count towards the Bulldogs class of 2024, and he's already on campus with plans to enroll in Georgia next month. Wonder what is he doing on campus? I guess he can go hang out with the football team if you haven't enrolled. Come on, Smitty. I know you're plugged into recruiting questions like these.
Looking it up now.
2026 quarterback Jontavius Wyman of Jonesboro, Georgia, who has an offer from USC and interest from Clemson, is set July 10th for his commitment announcement. That's Wednesday. Some of his other offers include Michigan, LSU, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia Tech, along with Kentucky, Oregon, Florida State, and a bunch of others, and including Georgia. by the way. 2026 offensive tackle Desmond Green of Timberland has been offered by Colorado. EC Florida right-handed pitcher Carter Harrington committed to the College of Charleston. And the USC women's basketball team in the top 6 with 5'11" Divine Barrage of Davenport, Iowa. The others on her list are LSU, Illinois, Baylor, Virginia Tech, and Arizona, not Georgia on the women's basketball side. They have not recruited nearly as well as their football team has.
No, they're different. They are different.
And that is Recruiting Tonight, brought to you by our good friends over at Seawells. I do have to say, we joke often about things that are going along with regards to Georgia athletics. You cannot question, though, their ability to go out and get exactly who they want. Where Kirby Smart sees fit to plug in players, they are a recruiting machine.
Yes.
And I'll be stunned if they miss out on the playoffs. I really will. I mean, it's almost a given. You can go ahead and pencil those guys in. There are going to be several schools, Smitty, when we expand to 12 starting this year. I mean, that you can just pencil in. Georgia is going to be one of them.
And I certainly think that that's one of the mistakes about expanding the playoff. What are we watching for? I mean, you could argue, well, we're watching to see if Georgia wins the SEC and how they do in rivalry games and what their seeding will be, if they can earn a bye and the like. But really, I think recent history has shown us the playoff has actually hurt the conference championship games as well, right? Because oftentimes you have one team just playing spoiler to the other, or in this case, in the SEC, you're likely going to have two teams meeting that are going to the playoffs anyway. So what's on the line? Are you going to have guys? Are we getting to the point where we talk about load management? If you have a wide receiver with the ankle's bothering him a little bit, maybe he sits out the SEC championship because that doesn't mean nearly as much as being healthy for the college football playoff. I don't want to be there. I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in the world where college football games week to week, those games matter. But we may be leaving that by the wayside because once you go to 12 teams, just as you said, I think we've got a couple of programs, and Georgia's chief among them, that I don't really have to pay attention. They can be on autopilot, finish whatever, 11-1, 10-2, 9-3. It doesn't matter. Georgia's going to the playoff. What will matter is their matchup and their health going into January.
And if Georgia and Texas are as good as everybody believes they are, there's the possibility they could play 3 times this season.
Yep.
Regular season, SEC championship game, and in the playoffs. Do we really want to see that? As good as those games may be, do we really want to see three times 2 teams playing college football?
You know what? You want to see the first one for sure. If you think if it turns out that they finish 1-2 in the SEC and they're going to play in the championship game, that game now loses luster because we know it's only a precursor to what we know, which is if they're 2 of the best teams in the country, they're both going to the playoffs. Look, people have likened this. It's similar to the NFL, and that's what we don't like about the NFL. What we don't like about the NFL are the last 2 weeks of the regular season for the best teams. They try to trick us and say, oh, look at the playoff implications. Yeah, for the 5 and 6 seed, it's not really as interesting as Fox would have you believe.
Speaking of recruiting, though, and a team that wants to get back to the college football playoff is the Clemson Tigers. And as I mentioned, they were able to snab their quarterback for the 2026 recruiting class. That was Tate Reynolds out of Queen Creek, Arizona, announcing a commitment to the Tigers yesterday. Former Arizona State baseball commit also has other offers, or at least did, from West Virginia, Texas A&M, Baylor, Oregon, Oklahoma State, and others. And after his commitment yesterday was made official, Phil Kornblut sat down to chat with Tate about deciding with the Tigers. And what was it that basically made him feel like Clemson was the place to be?
It was just a different feel there. It was just it was just a really awesome feeling, and Coach Riley and Coach Sweeney are just awesome. Like, I mean, all the coaches are, but it's just it was definitely different. Like I feel like I fit in their offense perfectly, and I fit their vibe and everything about them. Like, they're a bunch of winners, which everybody knows. I mean, they win every year. So it's just, I want to be around those kind of people, and I'm really excited.
When you went there for camp and you worked out for Sweeney and Coach Riley, did you feel a little bit of pressure? Did you kind of feel like you had to be a little something extra special to get their attention?
No, I don't. I think pressure is just lack of preparation. So, I mean, I'm always prepared. It's what I do every single day, right? It's just, I work hard, and I mean, I do it every single day, so there shouldn't be any pressure, you know.
What is it that you like about Coach Riley, the way he handles quarterbacks, the offense that he runs?
He's really simple, and he's very quarterback friendly. He runs the quarterback. He does everything with him. He just puts him in a spot to be successful, and that's just awesome to me.
When you were at Clemson for that camp and you got a chance to look at the campus and the surrounding area, and then also have a conversation with Coach Sweeney, what did you learn about that program that maybe you didn't know?
I mean, I really just, I didn't know how like cool and special it was, you know, like I didn't think the coaches were that down to earth and that caring about their players. And like I said, it's really just different. Like those guys, they really just care and like genuinely care about their players and want them all to be successful. And I didn't know that they made everybody graduate. Like they make everybody graduate there. So it's really cool and special.
Yeah. Living way out there in Arizona, have you been a Clemson fan from afar? Have you followed them in some way?
I mean, I've always followed them because they're always kind of like the top dogs, you know, and they're always playing Alabama when I was growing up and usually beating them and everything. So, yeah, I would say I watched them quite a bit.
And as far as the type of quarterback Clemson fans will see with you, I mean, looking at your numbers, looks like you're a guy that can throw it and you also are able to run. Are you that double threat quarterback in your opinion?
Yes, sir. I would say.
From that standpoint, do you like to stay in the pocket and try and make the pass go, or are there a lot of pre-called runs for you that you are used to in an offense?
There's a lot of pre-called runs, but I can throw it from the pocket as well and out of the pocket. I'm comfortable really doing anything.
All right. Last thing, the baseball side of things for you, because everybody knows you're a big-time baseball prospect. You, Clemson, and baseball, will you try and work that into your career there?
Yes, sir. As of right now, I'll play both.
And do you know kind of what your prospects look like for the baseball draft when your time comes around? Have you gotten any feelers from the pro people about what they think of you?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to some people and everything. Like, my coach played in the big leagues and stuff, and I just really want to play football, though. Like, it's always been a dream of mine, and I really want to go to Clemson and play football.
All right, that is Tate Reynolds announced his commitment as the 2026 quarterback for the Clemson Tigers, announcing that yesterday. That was Phil Kornblut catching up with him after his announcement to join the Tigers in a couple of seasons. We'll see how that recruitment continues because, you know, it won't stop. Just because he's committed one place doesn't mean somebody else won't try and get him to change his mind and come elsewhere. All right, 888-898-2525. Slide out final time out of the program. When we come back, the Major League Baseball All-Star rosters were announced over the weekend. I've got a fascinating question for our baseball experts. Should Skeens be the starter for the NL on Tuesday? Find out from Smitty next.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
We're with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer, let's say I'm out in the woods or I'm on the water and I need to reach a DNR agent. How do I do that?
Operation Game Thief, Phil. It's been around 30 plus years. You can call us at our 24-hour hotline any time of day, 1-800-922-5433. To report wildlife violations or to get help if you're in trouble in the woods or on the water, call us at Operation Game Thief, 1-800-922-5431.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hosteller Brown. Did you know it's possible to avoid probate court after you die, regardless of what you own? Why put your loved ones through a long, stressful public process when there are better options for your family? Visit lawyerlisa.com to see how we can help.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has introduced a new rolling jackpot, and it's big.
How big? Bigger than a striped bass? Reel 'em in.
Way bigger.
Bigger than this world-class golf course? Or
bigger than that.
Even bigger than the Gaffney Peach?
Let's just say with this new rolling jackpot, Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Palmetto Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today and check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at seeducationlottery.com. Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 50,668.
George Bryant here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and wow, Tsunami Robbie, there is now an amazing technology that you can use when you train receiving large game without having to endure pain. Please explain.
George, that is the magic combination. I have 3 simple words to define that entire concept. Stimulation, not annihilation. Regardless of your training goals, there is a level of stimulation that is optimal for your desired gains. Tsunami Bar's flexible bar technology meets these demands because the user determines the level of stimulation with the amount of speed they impart into the bar or training device.
Hey, this is Phil Kornblut. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
Don't you cry no more.
Heading down the back stretch here on Sports Talk Monday night all across the Palmetto State. Chris Bergen along with Josh Cohen and Matt Smith. Be back with you again tomorrow night at 6:05. Corn's got the week off, and then he'll be with us from Dallas, Texas all next week for SEC Media Days. Before we wrap things up with the Major League Baseball All-Star rosters that came out over the weekend, the Ryder Cup announcing today. Smitty, I think it's a surprise that Keegan Bradley is going to be the United States Ryder Cup captain next year for the upcoming event in 2025. I really thought this might have been Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson's opportunity here, and boy, they go a totally different route and pull in Keegan Bradley.
Yeah, I think that Tiger Woods turned them down, and I read that same story, and apparently one of the things that everybody can get behind with Keegan Bradley is he took the loss, his previous loss in 2012, I think, very hard, and he's one of those guys that really, really, really wants to see the United States excel in the Ryder Cup, so he's going to take it very seriously, and I don't know what it was that worked out. Tiger Woods, to me, would have been such a feather in his cap, I think, for his career as an elder statesman now, as someone that can help carry golf forward the way he carried it on his shoulders early in his career, dating back to 97. But putting that aside, whatever happened there, happened there. But I think you've got someone in Keegan Bradley that is excited, really, really wanted the job. You know, if you'd have held a cattle call, who really wants to do this, Keegan Bradley would have leapt at the opportunity. And I think that is one of the things that the committee likes about him.
And we'll see how it works. The Americans have not fared well here of late at the Ryder Cup, and again, that'll be next fall. Meantime, the rosters for next week's Major League Baseball All-Star Game, really the only All-Star event that is worth watching. And that's not even close. If you can't stomach the NBA All-Star Game because it's just a offensive showcase with no defense. Same for the NHL All-Star Game. And, of course, the Pro Bowl's gotten so bad, they've turned it into a backyard game on Thanksgiving at your grandmother's house. So at least the Major League Baseball All-Star Game resembles the event and the sport is supposed to represent. And, Smitty, you had 32 first-time All-Stars, 19 players under the age of 27. My guess is that bodes awfully well for the future of Major League Baseball.
I think so. I think you've got some young, exciting players, and if some of the fans that haven't been paying close attention, some more casual baseball fans, if you'll start watching some of these guys like Gunnar Henderson, you'll get exposed to what's going on in Major League Baseball right now, which is a major youth movement, and yeah, it's pretty exciting, and these are absolutely some of these young players and new names are some of the best players in the game. And you also have some new blood at the top of the standings in a couple of places. I mean, I know Baltimore, excelled last year, but Baltimore, Milwaukee's at the top of a division. You still have the Yankees are challenging. Of course, you have the Dodgers in the West, and the Phillies are making a case to. I mean, they've got a whole host of all-stars, like 8 all-stars or something, and they're putting the Braves in their review mirror with all the injuries they've had, and they've got some new names like Alec Boehm. So it's kind of fun if you're a fan of Major League Baseball, as I am. And by the way, the Pro Bowl, you said they've turned it into a flag football game in your grandmother's backyard. Those are way more competitive and physical than what's going on at the Pro Bowl.
Our families always were. I don't
Yes.
know if that's the case across the board. But I wanted to ask you, because I've seen this debate all day today, and I think it's an interesting one and may run out of time, so I'll ask it quickly and give you the leeway here. Should Paul Skeens, because of the draw that he is, now Chris Sale is having a better year with the Atlanta Braves, but if you're just talking about the draw to the game, should Paul Skeens, the former LSU star with the Pittsburgh Pirates, should he be the National League starter next Tuesday?
Oh, all right, maybe we'll continue this into tomorrow, but as soon as you asked that earlier, I was thinking about Fernando Mania in 81, Doc Gooden in 84, Nomo Mania in 95, which is a sore subject for Braves fans because Nomo got the Rookie of the Year over Chipper Jones. But I'm, Spencer Strider. I think Major League Baseball, you might want to seize on this momentum and relish in the spotlight. So there's a part of me that says, don't do it. Reward your elder statesman like a Chris Sale or a Tyler Glasnow. But you know what? I think Paul Skeens is special enough, like those guys I mentioned above. Major League Baseball would actually take the leap and let a rookie start in the All-Star game. And Paul Skeens, I think, might bring some viewers to the television.
I mean, he's going to pitch at some point in time, but I think it'd be really cool to see him go against, maybe first time through the order, against the AL's All-Stars. Because if you wait and throw him out there in the 4th or 5th inning, he's starting to see the reserves come in. And again, these are really good players, obviously, but you're not getting the front line American League players.
Completely, you're right, Chris, completely different because you get the news cycle heading into the game and then the build-up to Paul Skeens facing Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, 2 superstars of the game in the first inning. Everybody would be glued to the TV for that matchup.
We enjoyed it, folks. Our thanks to John Williams talking Oklahoma football. We'll be back here with you tomorrow night. Join us at 6:05.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.